What were the results that you were getting like from your Facebook ads?
Last year I ended up spending a lot of money on ads, and then kind of in retrospect realized that I thought that my acceptable cost per lead was closer to like $10 to $12, and that's where we were. But turns out after working with you and learning a lot more actually about my business and my funnel, that acceptable cost per lead is more like under $7.
All right. Welcome, Jessica. Thank you so much for hopping on a call with me today. How you doing?
Of course, doing great. Happy to do this interview with you.
Awesome. Well, before we kind of dive deep into what's been going on with your campaigns, your stats, and the changes and all kind of stuff, why don't you give the audience just a little bit of introduction in terms of what your business is, who you serve, and all that good stuff?
Yeah. So my name is Jessica Burke, and my business is called Awesome Little Sleepers. I'm a certified toddler sleep coach, which basically means that I help exhausted parents get their toddlers and preschoolers to actually go to bed and stay there and sleep through the night without waking up. And the way that I serve families is through some one-on-one coaching, and then primarily through a digital course.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think definitely one of the unique things of your business is that you help toddlers, right? There are a lot of I've seen a lot of other businesses that help with sleeping, but it's always infants and newborns. And so you're in a very unique niche where you're serving parents of toddlers, which I think is really cool. So for how long have you been running Facebook ads for your business?
I started running ads back in 2021 when I launched my course.
Gotcha. Awesome. And so I know you and I started working together at the very tail end of 2022, and obviously ever since the beginning of 2023. So for the entirety of 2022, though, what were the results that you were getting like from your Facebook ads?
Well, yeah. So since I started doing this back in 2021, I've gone through a number of different ads managers, and I've managed ads myself. So, I kind of started doing it myself, and then have cycled through a few different people helping me with this, agencies and different things. And last year I ended up spending a lot of money on ads, and then kind of in retrospect realized that I thought that my acceptable cost per lead was closer to like $10 to $12, and that's where we were. But turns out after working with you and learning a lot more actually about my business and my funnel, that acceptable cost per lead is more like under $7. So when I went back and looked at last year, running ads was really only profitable for me when I was doing big sales, although I was running ads all the time.
And so, I mean, what was that like when how did that feel when you realized that, last year in 2022, you only made money when you were running sales?
Well, it felt like a big waste of time in addition to a big waste of money. But I think what I really learned, and some of these lessons I didn't learn until after working with you, because I was always told with whoever I worked with in the past that, certain things weren't their responsibility. So, if I'm the one who's hosting the landing page. So I'm responsible for how the landing page is converting. I'm the one who's hosting the webinar. So I'm responsible for the show up rates for the webinar. And all those metrics and data was not something that previous ad managers were even looking at or concerning themselves with. And, so I feel like that was a lot of responsibility on me, but now working with you, one of the benefits is that you're so into all of the data, which just helps everything across the board. Like you're into my whole funnel, which is super helpful. And that's something that I've never experienced before, like a real partnership.
Yeah, definitely. I think that is a big fault of a lot of other, ad managers and ad agencies out there, is that they're strictly concentrated and focused on the ad side of things. But even if you're getting great cost per lead results, it's a whole funnel, right? And so everything needs to be working in cohesion. And so I've always found it better that if you collaborate with the person that you're working with together, then you can come up with a really great game plan to make modifications. Because like even you, right, you gave a great great point yourself, like things like the webinar and show up rate and stuff like that. So, you are obviously in a way responsible for that, because I can't record the webinar myself. You're obviously the business owner, but I can talk to you about it, give you some suggestions like, hey, here's what we can do to try to increase that show up rate. And you end up working together that way. And you obviously have a much more successful funnel. So you've already given a couple of hints as kind of what the issues were you were having with the previous agency that you were working with. What else, was there that kind of made you start looking for another solution at the end of 2022 and ultimately led you to working with me? What were some other things that were lacking with that previous agency?
Well, to get to kind of the actual like ad side of things, we were really stuck on one piece of creative, a static image ad that actually I had started running on my own back in 2021 that I kind of stayed in the account. And that was still the best performing ad after working with multiple agencies and and individual contractors to help with ads. That was still the winning ad. And I just knew that that didn't make any sense. I think I just knew that that there was some kind of skill set missing, that we should definitely have more things in the mix, because that wasn't going to keep working forever. So I think, I was getting a little bit of pushback on, not needing to make a change because it was working. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't kind of get over that hurdle to actually get new stuff in the mix, or new good stuff in the mix, I guess I should say. So that is one of the things that prompted me to make a change. That, and also kind of, not really looking at the data, really only mm-hmm. looking at the metrics inside of Ads Manager, which, they're not always accurate. You should always be cross-referencing that. Right. And I've always heard that, but the other Ads Managers were never doing that.
Yeah. So you've alluded to a couple of things already, the collaboration on the funnel side, looking at the data, also calculating your true earnings per lead, where it's more under $7 versus previously, you were working that $10 to $12 range. Beyond those things that you've brought up, what have also been some of the biggest differences between working with me and your previous agency?
Yeah, I think that, specifically on the ad side too, like the creative team that you use is great. I mean, the copywriting, the creative, I feel like they've really gotten my brand and my voice. I feel like whenever, I get stuff from you, it's doesn't need a lot of editing. It's pretty much there. And the other thing I think is a great benefit is your video editing team, because we're able to take assets that are performing well on other channels and adapt them for ads. And that way you have a good mix of media, which was, again, that was also never something that was a priority that I ever heard about with other ads managers.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we've done quite a bit ever since we started working together. We've obviously, we've implemented a bunch of different new ad variations. We're testing different landing page variations. We're testing a different thank you page, and things like that. And thankfully, with all that and the collaboration, we have been seeing some pretty good results. So, how would you summarize the impact of the changes that we've made this year, and what that has done for your business so far?
Oh, I think it's made a huge difference. And, the way I judge ads managers is on, the return on ad spend, which I think is reasonable, right? I'm spending the money to make more money. And so looking at all the different pieces of the puzzle that impact that, to me, is just the smart way for an ads manager to do business. But again, I had never found that before. So I think that I really feel well supported, like you've got your eye on what's going on. So we have weekly meetings, and I really value that, because you cross-reference my sales data. We really look at what's happening by the campaign, the audience, the ad type, and we're always testing new things. And you're also bringing me great ideas, like what you've seen work maybe in other industries or with other clients, or what's worked for you, or just having another set of eyes kind of on all those different pieces has been really helpful. So yeah, we've been able to identify the real cost per lead in the Meta channel. You also handle Google Ads for me, which has a different acceptable cost per lead. We've been able to kind of look at those things separately, which has been really helpful. So I've been very happy. I really do feel like like you've got my back. You know what I mean? Like you're doing your job. Like I'm not worried about it. Like you're
Yeah.
doing your job. If I have a question, you have an answer. You know,
Mhm.
it's that's really how I feel. In the past, sometimes, you know, because I don't know everything about ads. So sometimes I feel like if I would ask a question, you can kind of tell when you're getting the runaround a little bit. But with you, I feel like you answer it. You know the answer, or you figure out the answer, and so yeah, I think that's been really helpful.
Yeah, totally. And there's actually something you mentioned there that I definitely think is worth expanding on is that so one of the changes that we made right at the beginning is that you were on one webinar platform previously, but I mentioned we couldn't track sales, right? Because obviously you have an evergreen webinar funnel, and so the purchase takes place days later, right? So we couldn't track things back to what audience they came from, what ad they actually clicked on, and all that kind of stuff. So then we switched to a different webinar platform, and now we're able to track a lot of different data points, particularly which audiences and which ads are the ones that are generating sales. And if you recall, like there was a bunch of audiences at the very beginning where the cost per lead was fantastic. We were hitting our goal from that standpoint, but they weren't generating any purchases, right? So that's like one of the important things is that the cost per lead is not it's not the end all be all, right? So there is differences in quality from audiences in terms of who buys and doesn't buy. And that certainly has helped us narrow things down to what actually works for your business. So with all of that, with all those changes, what has your ROAS for your funnel been like this year, particularly compared to last year, now that we know that last year you were only a positive ROAS when you were running sales?
Well, it's profitable. I mean, that's a good thing. We're definitely we've been profitable or break even every month. Um, but also in addition to that, which, when we're looking at the ROAS, we're kind of looking at our, the day-to-day sales and the month-to-month sales and week-to-week and everything like that. But, in addition to that, you've also even given me ideas about how to, let's say someone doesn't purchase right away or within the, within the email nurture sequence that I have. I mean, you brought to me the idea of doing a downsell at some point in the future so that you're making some money, you're recouping some money off of these people if it's not even your full program. So just little things like that have all helped really lift the profitability of the paid ads funnel. And then, yeah, we've had killer months. I mean, we've had months where, I think last month maybe we were at 1.7 ROAS. So yeah, we've had some really great months. I think we've done a lot of like learning, and I've done a lot of growing, and the creative is really kind of coming together.
Yeah, for sure. And what you
Thank you
said
for
there.
mentioning. I just wanted to say thank you for mentioning the whole webinar platform. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, yeah, it feels like we've been on the one you currently have for forever and ever.
I know, but it really was like, I mean, I want
Mhm,
to say it's maybe April that we
mhm.
changed it.
Yeah, yeah.
It was sometime in the spring, and now we're almost in the fall. But yeah, and I mean, isn't that crazy? Like before, we couldn't even track sales from the webinar platform, which is, the webinar is the whole main way that my business operates. So yes, that was it. That was a huge change.
Totally, totally. Yeah, and by the way, if anyone's like wondering, okay, well, how can one webinar platform track sales and all that kind of stuff? Without getting too much in the weeds, there are some webinar platforms that accept UTM parameters, and so we apply UTM parameters to all of our ads, and so then we kind of just do we do a download of the weekly sales, and then we do a download of the registrations. We look at the UTM parameters, we match up the emails. So at a very high level, that's how you do it. So I always recommend for everyone to have one of those webinar platforms that is able to track UTM parameters. And then you said another thing there, super important as well, which I certainly don't think enough businesses out there are taking advantage of, is the downsell part. Just because someone didn't buy right now, it doesn't mean that they won't buy from you in the future, right? They could have just gotten busy. Maybe money's tight at the moment, or they just got distracted. Obviously with your target audience, they have kids. If they have multiple kids, they probably just forgot about it at some point. And so it's always good to give people, maybe a small appetizer. Okay, maybe purchasing my main program right now isn't the best, fit for you. But here's this, small little nugget over here that can get you started, and then obviously they can then graduate to your main program later. I love it when I see business owners do that. So Jessica, one thing that I think you've been really great about is that we've been talking about so many changes across your entire business that we've been doing this past year, from changes to the ads, changes to your webinar platform, changes to your funnel, landing pages, thank you pages, all that kind of stuff. And so you've always been really great about implementing these changes in your business. But for a lot of business owners, change can be very uncomfortable, right? It can be very scary because you just don't know what it's going to bring. So what would you say to other business owners out there that are maybe a little bit hesitant about, making all these types of changes that you and I have? What would you say to kind of get them over the hurdle and get away from the worries of that?
Yeah, that is a great question. And, change is scary, and I'm not immune to that. But that's another benefit I think that you have helped me work through, because we typically keep something running that's like, if something's like working, or I just feel like we've had it going on for a while, we need to keep it going. Like, you're really good about keeping one thing going and then just testing something new to kind of show me usually that something new can work, and then I feel comfortable, and then we can switch over to something else. But I've proven this to myself time and time again in a million different ways, and this relationship is no different. But like, change, you have to change. Like, you have to be constantly changing and testing and being willing to take a stumble or take a step and then be able to go back. That's not the end of the world. But that's why having the right partners is so important.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not everything that we've tested has worked, right? And so, we just analyze the data, and then we move on to the next thing that we can test. It's just that process of iteration. So now, Jessica, now that your funnel is profitable and you're not forced to have these sales in order to be profitable, so what does that feel like now? Now that you're not fully dependent on sales, what does that do for you and your business?
Well, I guess I didn't really know that was happening until it was in retrospect. But no, I mean, I think it brings a lot more revenue into the business. So I've actually been able to expand different channels, different organic channels, because now I'm bringing in more revenue through the paid ad side. It's allowed me to grow my business even more. And then it's just, I think, like I mentioned before, it's just knowing, like, feeling confident and secure that you know what you're doing. You've got your numbers on the data. I mean, we have enough check-ins so I can ask questions whenever I need to, and you're always available. So it's really just that feeling supported, and then certainly, having that more revenue to help grow the business is wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think that's the main questions I wanted to ask. But before we wrap up here, is there anything else that maybe I forgot that you want to add in terms of what it's been like working with me and my team, and or anything regarding Facebook ads wise?
I mean, I think the only other thing I would say is, I feel like a lot of business owners and course creators are always looking for ads managers, and like, I just can't say enough great things about working with you. I mean, really, and I've given a million examples here in this discussion, but I've just seen and heard of so many horror stories. So when you're interviewing for ads managers, really get in the weeds about how they are going to use your data to drive business decisions, because data doesn't lie. So
Exactly.
get your numbers in order and find an ads manager who will rely on that data to make decisions. And that's how you're really going to be able to grow.
For sure. Yeah, I could not have summarized that better myself. Well, Jessica, I really appreciate your time in talking today. It's been really wonderful working with you. I think you're a great client. Like I said, I love the fact that you're always willing to test new things and make adjustments to your funnel. So thank you once again for your time, and I look forward to everything else that we can do to grow your business moving forward.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right. Take care.